Welcome friends, this is basically part 2 in our Daz to Blender anime workflow using the Comfee Mug Shader. In the last video I provided some links to their YouTube channel and their anime cel-shaded shader and how to apply that to a basic object. In this video we're going to show how to apply that to a Genesis 9 anime or Toon character, and this is going to be based off of the new Genesis 9 base feminine or masculine Toon characters. They're available in Daz Studio 4.23. So here I have let me open up the screen a little bit, a base masculine Toon character that's using some new Fila Toon Shaders, but they only really work in Daz Studio in the filament engine. If you go to Eevee, this is well, it kind of works in Eevee, but you can tell it's not as flat as the Fila filament shader or engine. But if you export it to Blender, it's not going to work at all. I did try to do the Daz to Blender bridge, but the rigging was pretty messed up there and the materials didn't work. But I'm using the Diffeomorphic Importer. At least the rigging is okay. We will have to fix the eyes, so stay tuned to that at the end, but we also need to fix a lot of the material, so let's go ahead and do that. I already have a character loaded using the Diffeomorphic Importer, and I'm using the Eevee render engine. So let's go ahead and go to shaded view and see what we're working with. You see most of the materials come out kind of charcoal black. I'm going to go ahead and hide the armature for the moment, and there is a secondary armature down here for the Toon shadow plane that has something to do with the eyes. I'm not sure what it really accomplishes, so I always turn it off, and I'm going to turn off the armature for that. And next thing I'm going to do is, I have the shader in my asset library, but if I go to add a material and I go to group, it's not already loaded, so I'm just going to drop it on this object so that will show up when I do Shift A. So go to my asset browser, go to Toon, drop this Comfy Toon shader, and I see that my scene is a bit bright because most of it's washed out in that white color. So we need to fix that. Change my sun lamp and dial that down to about 3 and angle about 20. So that's a little bit better. So that's going to reflect better when I start changing materials on the character itself. Also, unless you really need them, you're going to want to turn off shadows for each object. So you see here where the shadow is from the hair to the face, the shadows are very grainy, so we just want to clear that up. That's why we're turning off shadows. So let's start with the face material or the head. Let's go down here, and you see if we did just the BSDF, we would get the right color, but then it's not, doesn't turn out as flat or cel shaded as we need it to be. So something is going on here with this node setup, and I can't really change the inputs to this group, so we're going to have to bypass that entirely. So Shift A, I'm going to go to Group, Comfy Toon Shader. Again, probably want to see part 1 to understand how we got this far. So I'm going to connect that to my output. probably just going to go ahead and remove the displacement. And we're going to take this output and put it into the main and shadow. And here we go, we get more of a cel shaded look here with that setup. And this is going to be, for the most part, the workflow for changing the materials over. And we see turning off shadows cleared that up a whole lot. So I'm going to do probably most of the upper body, but I'm not going to do every single material. But I'm going to do enough to get, make the upper body look good, and so you get the general idea of what's going on. So let's go ahead and turn the shadow off for that, and then go to each material, add a Comfee Toon Shader, take the image texture and feed it into there. Same thing for trim. And let's see, we'll do the arms. Nothing really different there. And let's see, we should probably do the mouth cavity. Now for this particular Genesis 9 character, the mouth is a separate object. So to see it, we're going to go to our Daz Importer tab, the Daz Runtime, go to Morphs, go to FACS, go down to Jaw Open. .7. First, I'm going to fix the mouth. Again, turn off shadows to clear up that distortion. Teeth doesn't have an image texture, but we're going to take the color and drop it into both. Go back and do the mouth cavity. Let's do the hair. That's also just a color. Oops. This one does have an image texture, so we're going to go ahead and use that. And then the top hair also has an image texture. Alright, so far so good. So the main issue is the eyes. Okay, the mouth cavity didn't work. Okay, I didn't connect it. There we go. The eyes. So we have really three things to deal with the eyes as far as materials are concerned. We have the floating iris, which for the most part we're going to leave alone. We're going to turn off shadows, but the materials we'll leave alone. Then the eye socket is its own material. Let's go ahead and fix that since we're on it. But when we do that, we see we still have some brown. That's because the base mesh of the character kind of bleeds into the eye socket area, so we need to clean that up as well. So to do that, we're going to go make sure our character mesh is selected. We're going to add a new material. I'll call it eyes. I'm just going to make that another Toon Shader in white. Let's go to edit mode, deselect everything, hit 3 for face select. And we're going to select basically ring loops and start assigning the material so that everything turns white. Can't really hit L because that will select everything, and we don't want to assign this to the whole body. So I'm just kind of hovering around here trying to see what we can select. We don't really need to get everything, because unless your camera is going to get really to the side of the character, so I might not really worry about getting this ring loop, because then it gets all into there. But from the front, I think for right now that gets decent. If you need to get closer, you know, you're just going to really work to get in there. But I will move on to the next eye. Just selecting, using Alt to select the loops and assigning the material. And I think that's the gist of it. Get out of edit mode. Alright, so that pretty much does it for the materials. However, we got some problems with the rigging of the eyes. What I mean is, let's bring back our armature. So first I'll move the individual bones, then I will move using sliders. So this is the left eye, and we see the socket itself move, but not the iris. And basically that's because the iris is attached to another bone that we do not see right now. So if we go to here in our FACS and we do like eyes look side to side, if I can find it here, here we go. Both sockets will move, but not the irises. So to fix that, the armature selected, we go to Daz Setup, go to Corrections, and click on Merge Rigs. And when we do that, we're going to see new bones show up. And we have some new bones here. Go to pose mode. And in pose mode, we see we have this L iris, and we move that, and we see that the iris moves all about. So what we want to do is basically have it copy the rotation of the eye bone itself. So let's go ahead and try to do that. First thing we want to do is go to Bone Constraints and add bone constraint, copy rotation. And we are going to copy the rotation of base anime masculine. That's the name of the armature of our character. And we're going to copy the left eye. And we'll keep the order at default for right now. And we're mostly concerned about the X and Z rotation. And sometimes the mix, I can use different ones, but right now I'm just using offset legacy. Seems to work. And then I get mixed results, but sometimes I use local space or local with parent, and then use local space for rotation. So I move the eye. Let's see, let's do the X axis. So as I move the eye down, the iris goes up, and inverse as well, so that's not good. So we need to invert the X axis. So now if we move the eye on the x-axis, it follows. And if I move it on the z-axis, it's doing the opposite of what the eye bone is doing, so we need to invert there as well. So selecting the iris bone, invert there. So now, if I go back to Daz runtime and do the side to side, also a little uncomfortable with how far it goes as it goes from -1 to 1, so I'm going to add a limit rotation constraint. And I based it off the limit rotation for the eye bone, but I just changed some of these parameters. So in my case, and you can do this however you feel necessary, I'm going to select limit x. My values I used were -10. Oh, that's limit rotation, sorry. Limit rotation, -10 to 10. Z, I'm going to do -10 to 10 as well. The order I'm going to use is Y, Z, X, Euler. Effect transform, and the owner is local space. So now the eye's back in the middle. If we go side to side, we see it goes all the way pretty much to the end of the eye, but not too far beyond. Again, you can change these values based on how far you want them to go. So if I go up, it's going to go only so far up and down. So quickly, let's do the same thing on this side. The right eye, add a bone constraint, copy rotation, base anime masculine, the right eye, invert the Z and Z axes, offset legacy, although I've gotten some success with using after original. I'll leave on that one and see if there's really a difference. Local with parent, local space. Add limit rotation, Z and X, -10, 10, 10, -10, Y, Z, X, Euler, effect transform, and local space. Now, hide everything. Let's do up and down. So really, I don't think there's much of a difference between the two eyes, even though I use a different method. See side to side. So that looks pretty good. Let me turn this back on. I'm just going to quickly find the hip bone if I can. Change the rotation of the character, and we see we have a few issues. So let's see if we can fix that right quick. Let's just do local space. Aha. So local with parent works if you're just keeping the character still, but if you move the character or animate it at all, that's going to be an issue. So I'm going to stick with local space. And let's go ahead and do look side to side. And let's do up and down one more time. And everything still works. So here we go. We want to do local space for the copy rotation, and this is our settings for limit rotation for both eyes. So hopefully this will be helpful for you if you're doing an anime workflow in Blender using Daz characters, and looking forward to seeing more content in the Daz store for the anime characters, particularly the hair, because right now the options are kind of limited. But other than that, hopefully this was helpful to you, and talk to you later. Blessings. Peace.